Welcome to the 1000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 626th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Mardas, hearing the tribesmen praises of Gharib, again thanked him for his daring do. But the youth, when he had delivered Mahdiyah from Al-Haman, whom he slew, was smitten by the shaft of her glances, and fell into the nets of her allurements. Wherefore his heart could not forget her, and he became drowned in love and longing. But the sweets of sleep forsook him, and he had no joys of drink or meat. He would spur his horse up to the mountain's top, where he would spend the day in composing verses, and return at nightfall. And indeed, manifest upon him were the signs of affection and distraction. He discovered his secret to one of his companions, and it became noised abroad in the camp, till it reached the ears of Mardas, who thundered and lightened, and rose up and sat down, and snarked and snorted, and reviled the sun and the moon, saying, This is the reward of him who reareth the sons of adultery. But except I kill Gharib, I shall be put to shame. Then he consulted one of the wise men of his tribe, and after telling his secret, took counsel with him of killing the youth. Quoth the elder, O Emir, 'twas but yesterday that he freed thy daughter from captivity. If there be no help for it, but that thou must slay him, let it be by the hand of another than thyself, so none of the folk may misdoubt of thee. Quoth Mardas, Advise me, how I may do him die, for I look to none but to thee for his death. O Emir, answered the other, wait till he go forth to hunt, and chase when he do take 100 horse, and lie in wait for him in some cave till he passes, then fall upon him unawares, and cut him in pieces. So shalt thou be quit of his approach. Said Mardas, This should serve me well, and choose out 150 of his furious knights and Amalekites, whom he lessened to his will. Then he watched Gharib till one day he went forth to hunt, and rode far away amongst the dells and the hills, whereupon Mardas followed him with his men, ill-omened wights, and lay in wait for him by the way, against he should return from the chase, that they might sally forth and slay him. But as they lay in ambush among the trees, behold, there fell upon them 500 true Amalekites, who slew 60 of them, and made 80 prisoners, and trussed up Mardas with his arms behind his back. Now the reason of this was that when Gharib put Al-Hamal and his men to the sword, the rest fled and ceased not flying till they reached their lord's brother, and told him what had happened. Whereat this doomsday rose, and he gathered together his Amalekites, and choosing out 500 cavaliers, each 50 ells high, set out with them in quest of blood revenge for his brother. By the way, he fell in with Mardas and his companions, and there happened between them what happened, after which he bade his men alight and rest, saying, O folk, the idols have given us an easy blood wreck, so guard ye Mardas and his tribesmen, till I carry them away, and do them die with the foulest of deaths. When Mardas saw himself a prisoner, he repented of what he had done, and said, This is the reward of rebelling against the Lord. Then the enemy passed the night, rejoicing in their victory, while Mardas and his men despaired of life, and made sure of doom. So far concerning them, but as regards Sahim al-Lail, who had been wounded in the fight with Al-Hamal, he went in to his sister Mahdiyah, and when she rose to him and kissed his hand, saying, May thy 2 hands neither wither, nor thine enemies have occasion to be blither. But for thee and Gharib, we had not escaped captivity among our foes. Know, however, O my brother, that thy father hath ridden forth with 150 horses, proposing to slaughter Gharib, and thou wottest it would be sore loss and foul wrong to slay him, for that he was he who saved your shame and rescued your good. When Sahim heard this, the light in his sight became night. He donned his battle harness, and mounting steed, rode for the place where Gharib was a-hunting. He presently came up with him, and found that he was taking great plenty of game. So he accosted him, and saluted him, and said, O my brother, why dost thou go forth without telling me? Replied Gharib, By Allah, naught hindered me, but that I saw thee wounded, and thought to give thee rest. Then said Sahim, O my brother, beware of my sire, and told him how Mardas was abroad with 150 men seeking to slay him. Quoth Gharib, Allah shall cause his treason to cut his own throat. Then the brothers set out campwards, but night overtook them by the way, and they rode on in darkness till they drew near the wady wherein the enemy lay, and heard the neighing of steeds in the gloom. Whereupon said Sahim, O my brother, my father and his men are ambushed in yonder valley. Let us flee from it. But Gharib dismounted, and throwing his bridle to his brother, said to him, Stay in this stead till I come back to thee. Then he went on till he drew in sight of the folk, when he saw that they were not of his tribe, and heard them naming Mardas, and saying, We will not slay him save in his own land. Wherefore he knew that Nuncle Mardas was their prisoner, and said, By the life of Mahdiyah, I will not depart hence till I have delivered her father, that she may not be troubled. Then he sought, and ceased not seeking till he hit upon Mardas, and found him bound with cords. So he sat down by his side, and said to him, Heaven deliver thee, O uncle, from these bonds and this shame. When Mardas saw Gharib, his reason fled, and he said to him, O my son, I am under thy protection, so deliver me in front right of my fosterage to thee. Quoth Gharib, If I deliver thee, wilt thou give me Mahdiyah? Quoth the Emir, O my son, by whatsoever I hold sacred, she is thine at all time. So he loosed him, saying, Make for the horses, for thy son Sahim is there. And Mardas crept along like a snake till he came to his son, who rejoiced in him, and congratulated him on his escape. Meanwhile, Gharib unbound one after another of the prisoners, till he had freed the whole 90, and they were all far from the foe. Then he sent them their weapons and war horses, saying to them, Mount ye, and scatter yourselves around about the enemy, and cry out, Ho, sons of Catan! And when they awake, do you remove from them, and encircle them in a thin ring. So he waited till the last and third watch of the night, when he cried out, Ho, sons of Catan! And his men answered in their like guise, saying, Ho, sons of Catan! As with one voice. And the mountains echoed their slogan, so that it seemed that the raiders, as though the whole tribe of Banu Catan was assailing them. Wherefore they all snatched up their arms, and fell upon one another. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 627th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the raiders awoke from sleep and heard Gharib and his men crying out, Ho, sons of Catan! They imagined that the whole tribe was assailing them. Wherefore they snatched up their arms, and fell one upon the other with mighty slaughter. Gharib and his men held aloof, and they fought one another till daybreak, when Gharib and Mardas and their 90 warriors came down upon them, and killed some of them, and put the rest to flight. Then the Banu Catan took the horses of the fugitives and the weapons of the slain, and returned to their tribal camp, while Mardas could hardly credit his deliverance from the foe. When they reached the encampment, the stay-at-home folk all came forth to meet them, and rejoiced in their safe return. Then they alighted and betook them to their tents, and all the youths of the tribe flocked to Gharib's stead, and great and small saluted him, and did him honor. But when Mardas saw this, and the youth encircling the stepson, he watched and waxed more jealous of Gharib than before, and said to his kinsfolk, Verily, hatred of Gharib groweth on my heart, and what irketh me most is that I see these flocking about him, and tomorrow he will demand Mahdiyah of me. Quoth his confidant, O Emir, ask of him somewhat he cannot avail to do. This pleased Mardas, who passed a pleasant night, and on the morrow, as he sat on his stuffed carpet, with the Arabs about him, Gharib entered, and followed by his men, and surrounded by the youth of the tribe, and kissed the ground before Mardas, who, making a show of joy, rose to do him honor, and seated him beside himself. Then said Gharib, O uncle, thou madest me a promise. Do thou fulfill it. Replied the Emir, O my son, she is thine to all time, but thou lackest wealth. Quoth Gharib, O uncle, ask of me what thou wilt, and I will fall upon the emirs of the Arabs and their houses, and on the kings and their towns, and bring thee fee enough to fence the land from east to west. "O my son," quoth Mardas, "I have sworn by all the idols that I would not give Mahdiyah save to him who should take my blood wit of mine enemy and do away my reproach." "O uncle," said Gharib, "tell me with which of the kings that thou hast a feud, that I may go to him and break his throne upon his pate." "O my son," replied Mardas, "I once had a son, a champion of champions, and he went forth one day to chase and hunt with 100 horse. They fared on from valley to valley till they had wandered far away amongst the mountains, and came to the Wadi of Blossoms, and the castle of Ham bin Shaz bin Shaddad bin Khalid. Now, in this place, O my son, dwelleth a black giant, 70 cubits high, who fights with trees from their roots uptorn. And when my son reached his wadi, the tyrant sallied out upon him and his men, and slew them all, save 3 braves, who escaped and brought me the news. So I assembled my champions, and fared forth to fight the giant, but could not prevail against him. Wherefore I was balked of my revenge, and swore that I would not give my daughter in marriage, save to him who should avenge me of my son." Said Gharib, "O uncle, I will go to this Amalekite, and take the wreck of thy son on him, with the help of the Almighty Allah." And Mardas answered, saying, "O Gharib, if thou get the victory over him, thou wilt gain of him such booty of wealth and treasures as fire may not devour." Cried Gharib, "Swear to me before witnesses that thou wilt give me to wife, so that with heart at ease I may go forth to find my fortune." Accordingly, Mardas swore this to him, and took the elders of the tribe to witness. Whereupon Gharib fared forth, rejoicing in the attainment of his hopes, and went in to his mother, to whom he related what had happened. "O my son," said she, "know that Mardas hateth thee, and doth but send thee to this mountain to bereave me of thee. Then take me with thee, and let us depart the tents of this tyrant." But he answered, "O my mother, I will not depart hence till I win my wish and foil my foe." Thereupon he slept till morning, rose with its sheen and shone, and hardly had he mounted his charger when his friends and the young men came up to him. 200 stalwart knights, armed, cap a pie, cried out to him, saying, "Take us with thee. We will help thee and accompany thee by the way." And he rejoiced in them and cried, "Allah requite you for this good. And come, my friends, let us go." So they set out and fared on the first day and the second day till evening, when they halted at the foot of a towering mount and baited their horses. As for Gharib, he left the rest, and walking on into the mountain till he came to a cave whence issued a light. He entered, and found at the high facing end of the cave a sheikh 340 years old, whose eyebrows overhung his eyes, and whose moustache hid his mouth. Gharib at this sight was filled with awe and veneration, and the hermit said to him, "Methinks thou art of the idlers, O my son, stone-worshipping in the stead of the all-powerful king, the creator of night and day, and of the sphere rolling on her way." When Gharib heard these words, his side muscles quivered, and he said, "O sheikh, where is this lord of whom thou speakest, that I may worship him and take my fill of his sight?" Replied the sheikh, "O my son, this is the supreme Lord, upon whom none may look in his world. He seeth and is not seen. He is the most high of aspect, and is present everywhere in his works. He it is who maketh all the made, and ordereth time to vade and fade. He is the creator of men and jinn, and sendeth the prophets to guide his creatures in the way of right. Whoso obeyeth him, he bringeth him into the heaven, and whoso gainsayeth him, he casteth into hell." Asked Gharib, "And how, O uncle, saith whoso worshippeth this puissant Lord, who over all hath power?" "O my son," answered the sheikh, "I am of the tribe of Ad, which were transgressors in the land, and believed not in Allah. So he sent unto them a prophet named Hud, but they called him a liar, and he destroyed them by the means of a deadly wind. But I delivered together with some of my tribes, and we were saved from destruction. Moreover, I was present with the tribe of Thamud, and saw what befell them with the prophet Salah. When Salah, the mighty, sent a prophet called Abraham the Friend to Nimrod, son of Canaan, and there befell what befell between them. Then my companions died in the saving faith, and I continued in this cave to serve Allah the Most High, who provideth my daily bread without my taking thought. Quoth Gharib, O uncle, what shall I say that I may become of the troop of this mighty Lord? Say, replied the old man, there is no God but the God, and Abraham is the friend of God. So Gharib embraced the faith of submission with heart and tongue, and the sheikh said to him, May the sweetness of belief and devotion be established in thy heart. Then he taught him somewhat of the biblical ordinances and scriptures of all Islam, and said to him, What is thy name? And he answered, My name is Gharib. Asked the old man, Whither art thou bound, O Gharib? So he told him all his history, till he came to the mention of the ghoul of the mountain, whom he sought. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 628th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Gharib became a Moslem, and told the sheikh his past from first to last, till he came to the mention of the mountain ghoul whom he sought, the old man asked him, O Gharib, art thou mad that thou goest forth against the ghoul of the mountain single-handed? And he answered, O my lord, I have with me 200 horses. O Gharib, rejoined the hermit, hast thou 10,000 riders? Yet shouldest thou not prevail against him, for his name is the ghoul who eateth men, we pray Allah for safety. And he is of the children of Ham. His father's name was Hindi, who peopled Hind, and named it, and he left his son after him, whom he called Sadan the ghoul. Now, the same was, O my son, even in his sire's lifetime, a cruel tyrant, and a rebellious devil, and had no other food than flesh of the sons of Adam. His father, when about to die, forbade him from this, but he would not be forbidden, and he redoubled in his frowardness, till Hindi banished him, and drove him forth to the land of Hind, after battles and sore travail. Then he came to this country, and fortifying himself herein, established his home in this place, whence he is wont to sally forth, and cut the road to all that cometh, and go presently, returning to the valley he haunteth. Moreover, he hath begotten 5 sons, warlike warlocks. Each one of them will do battle with 1,000 braves, and he hath flocked the valley with his booty of treasures and goods, besides horses and camels and cattle and sheep. Wherefore I fear for thee from him. So do thou implore Almighty Allah to further thee against him by the Tali, the formula of unity. And when thou drivest at the infidels, cry, God is great, for saying there is no God, but the God confoundeth those who misbelieve. Then the sheikh gave him a steel mace, 100 pounds in weight, with 10 rings, which clashed like thunder, whenas the wielder brandished it, and a sword forged of a thunderbolt, 3 eels long, and 3 spans broad, wherewith if one smote a rock, the stroke would cleave it in sunder. Moreover, he gave him a hauberk and target and a book, and said to him, Return to thy tribe, and expound unto them all Islam. So Gharib left him, rejoicing in his new faith, and fared till he found his companions, who met him with salam, saying, What made thee tarry thus? Whereupon he related to them that which had befallen him, and expounded to them all Islam, and they all Islamized. Early next morning, Gharib mounted, and rode to the hermit to farewell him, after which he set out to return to his camp, when behold, on his way there he met a horseman Kapapai, armed, so that only his eyes appeared, who made at him, saying, Doff what is on thee, O scum of the Arabs, or I will do thee die. Therewith Gharib drave at him, and there befell between them a battle, such as would make a newborn child turn grey, and melt the flinty rock with its sore affray. But presently the Badawai did off his face veil, and lo, it was Gharib's half-brother, Sahim Alil. Now, the cause of his coming thither was that when Gharib set out in quest of the mountain ghoul, Sahim was absent, and on his return, not seeing his brother, he went in to his mother, whom he found weeping. He asked the reason of his tears, and she told him what had happened of his brother's journey, whereupon, without allowing himself aught of rest, he donned his war gear, and mounting rode after Gharib, till he overtook him, and there befell between them what befell. When therefore Sahim discovered his face, Gharib knew him, and saluted him, and saying, What moved thee to do this? Quoth Sahim, In a mind to measure myself with thee in the field, and make trial of my lustihood in cut and thrust. Then they rode together, and on the way Gharib expanded all Islam to Sahim, who embraced the faith. Nor did they cease riding till they were hard upon the valley. Meanwhile, the mountain ghoul espied the dust of their horses' feet, and said to his sons, O my sons, mount and fetch me yonder loot. So the 5 took horses, and made for the party. When Gharib saw the 5 Amalekites approaching, he plied shovel iron upon his steed's flank, and cried out, saying, Who are ye, and what is your race, and what do you require? Whereupon Falun bin Sa'adan, the eldest of the 5, came out and said, Dismount ye, and bind one another, and we will drive you to our father, that he may roast various of you, and boil various for other things, until he has tasted the flesh of Adam's sons. When Gharib heard these words, he drove at Falun, shaking his mace so that the rings rang like the roaring thunder, and the giant was confounded. Then he smote him a light blow with the mace between the shoulders, and he fell to the ground like a tall, trunked palm tree. Whereupon Sahim and some of his men fell upon him and pinioned him. Then, putting a rope about his neck, they hauled him along like a cow. Now, when his brothers saw him a prisoner, they charged home upon Gharib, who took 3 of them captive, and the 5th fled back to his sire, who said to them, What is behind thee, and where are the brothers of thee? Quoth he, Verily, a beardless youth, 40 cubits high, hath taken them prisoner. Quoth Sa'adan, May the sun pour no blessings on you, and going down from his hold, tore up a huge tree with which he was about to go in quest of Gharib and his folk. And he was on foot, and that no horse might carry him because of the bigness of his body. His son followed him, and the twain went on till they came up with Gharib and his company. And when the ghoul fell upon them without word said, and slew 5 men with his club, then he made at Sahim, and struck at him with his tree, but Sahim avoided the blow, and it fell harmless. Whereat Sa'adan was wroth, and throwing down the weapon, sprang upon Sahim, and caught him in his pouncers, as the sparrowhawk catcheth up the sparrow. Now when Gharib saw his brother in the ghoul's clutches, he cried out, saying, Aloha Akbar! God is most great! Oh, the favor of Abraham, the friend of Mohammed, the blessed one, whom Allah keen and assain. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. And so do I cease my telling of these tales for today, till it be morrow.